Welcome to the show, everybody. Joseph Robert, the Fantasy Football Counselor. Got a very special guest, third year running in a row. He's a guest on the Counselor podcast. We got Jimmie Maverick. What's going on, Jimmy?
Hey, Counselor. I'm sitting here. I'm just waiting with bated breath for this season to start and get going, and let's play some football.
I'm beyond excited. The buzz is starting to buzz. I can hear it. I can feel it. I can taste it. Football is almost here. And I can't wait because there's so many question marks around, how these fantasy players will perform. The rookies, the Clyde Edwards-Helaire of the world. Will Miles Sanders break out? Will Jonathan Taylor emerge on his team? And I love football because it answers all of these questions for us that we debate about all offseason. So today we've got a special episode. We are talking about regression players. And, I'm all about innovation. I'm all about providing you guys with the best possible tools to crush your leagues, period. So Jimmy's got a phenomenal app, and we're going to walk through all the optimal players to draft in the first 6 rounds. So it's kind of like a mini mock draft using his app. We're just going to be talking back and forth. While we're doing that, we're going to be focusing on regression players. So Jim, first and foremost, can you tell us a little bit about yourself for people that don't know you, how cool your app is, and then we're going to dive into the regression players. But guys, leave your questions below. Jimmy will dive into the comments as well, and smash the thumbs up. It helps the channel. So Jimmy, tell us a little bit about you, your app, and a couple of regression players that we're going to be talking about, please.
Well, I got to tell you, man, I am a long-time fantasy football fanatic. I have been playing since the early 2000s when I got hooked in by my college roommate. And it's been all fantasy since then. But I always had a problem with the draft. That's always where I would make these critical mistakes on draft day, not picking the right players, picking poor choices. And it was just so hard for me to build my own player list each year that I decided that I needed to create an app to help people out with making those draft day decisions. When you're on the clock and you got 90 seconds to make a choice on a player, who is going to be the best choice in the 5th round if you pick 7th in a 10-team league? It's that sort of a question. So that's why I ended up developing this app, and I've been refining it and improving it each year. And, it's just designed to walk you through round by round when you're in the draft and help you find the best players for your team at each and every pick of your draft, so you can just nail it. You'll have critical pieces of information. What's their value rank, outlook, reliability, consistency ratings, and then I combine that all into what I call a Vork score, which is just value, outlook, reliability, and consistency. And they get points based on how they score in each of those categories. And then the players in each round are sorted according to their Vork score as opposed to their draft position. So the highest scoring players are at the top of the list, and that's where you need to focus on, is players at the top of the list for your fantasy team, and avoid those players at the bottom of the list.
Yeah, so I love this app here. We're going to walk through it here, and we're going to talk about regression players. So we can start off with the first round here. Now, what I love about this app, now, if you guys haven't got the 16-round draft solution, of course, head on over and get that. I like my optimal players. So if you combo this with the 16-round draft solution, you've got a winning formula. I mean, it's phenomenal. I love this tool. And what I really love about your tool, because I know a lot about fantasy. I live and breathe it. That's all I talk about. But there's certain things that might slip past me. So, for example, here, I knew Alvin Kamara, but a lot of these guys, like Godwin, I wasn't really, like, in the back of my mind, it wasn't that it's a contract year. That means he is hungry. He's going to eat. He's going to eat. And I love this little martini glass here because this tells you that he's got a big contract hangover, similar to Christian McCaffrey as well, who got paid significantly and is going to have a contract year, right? So where's Christian McCaffrey on here? Is he not showing up?
Well, because we are at pick number 6, he's not even appearing on the list because he is, he's basically going first or second. So you've got your chances of getting him at pick number 6 is basically nil. But if you click on the top 12 tab, you'll see him there. He'll be there.
Yeah, so this is really cool. So basically, if you're picking 6th, it's going to start telling you the optimal players to draft on that pick, and it's going to give you detailed information about those picks. So this is phenomenal. I mean, you can even see that, if you're 6th, it might be a long shot that you get Zeke because he comes off in the 4th. So it actually tells you it's a long shot. Then it tells you Kamara, long shot, you get him at 6. If you do, understand it's a contract year and a possible bounce back because he finished 9th last year in PPR, and he's always a top 10 finisher. So I love the little details here that's going to give you that huge advantage over the competition. Simple.
Yeah, and that's something that was one of the icons I added this past year was the bounce back icon. And essentially it's just players that get an extremely decent volume in the NFL, but for some reason had a very poor year for like touchdowns. You know, when you
Right.
talk about players like Robert Woods, Le'Veon Bell, Leonard Fournette, Alvin Kamara, all those guys, fantastic volume, but they just lacked on the touchdown side. So that's why I'm saying bounce back on touchdowns, and that will vault their value over the prior season. So that's one of the things that I really look at for players.
So I'm going to share the screen again, but I want to talk about the regression players for, let's go for the first 5 rounds or so, like something like that. And let's talk
Sure.
about those regression players. And then we're going to take a look if it actually makes sense in your app, because I'm going to nitpick and I'm going to cut up your app and see if there's any holes, because so far I'm pretty impressed. So Derrick Henry, obviously I was higher on him than last year. There might be a regression. I had a pinnacle year last year. So this to me makes total sense. Jim, do you want to explain why you think a regression other than the obvious?
Yeah, I've got criteria that I set for what players are at most at risk for regression. And one of the criteria is, did they have a career season on a contract year? And that's exactly what Derrick Henry had last year. It was his best year in the NFL, and it was a contract year, and the man got paid. So, I'm just saying, it's not necessarily saying that he's going to do bad, but it's a down. What it does is the regression tag just downgrades their outlook by 2 stars. But in Derrick Henry's case, he's got so much stuff going for him, including that upward pointing arrow next to his name, which means he's had increasing volume in each of the past 3 seasons,
Right.
that he still scores three stars on outlook, which is still a very good score. And he's still very highly rated. As you can see, he's right near the top of the list. And, he's someone that I would have no problems taking, as opposed to some other players who maybe are going to regress a little bit harder.
You know what I love though? I love the fact that there's visual aids here. So let's just say you want to draft Derrick Henry, but at least now you know the background information. You know if there's a contract here, you know if it's a contract hangover. I know it seems like common sense for some of these guys in the earlier rounds, but it's the guys in the mid to late rounds you may not be familiar with. Oh, is Tariq Cohen due for a contract? Oh, is Tevin Coleman? What's his situation? Was he recently injured? What's going on? Is he a reach in this round? At least you got that insight, then you know where to get them, and you have that background information so you can make a better educated decision. That's what I love about it.
Yeah, and when it comes to my Vork score, the score is a scale of 0 to 100, but I consider any player that scores over 40 Vork points to be a good choice for fantasy. And Derrick Henry scores 52 Vork points, so he's a solid choice to take in the first round. Although I would take Elliott and Kamara, and I know you don't like him, but Kenyon Drake, I do very much like him, especially in PPR. Guy's going to get a lot of targets.
Listen, the Kenyon Drake train, this guy could really boom. And I'm not, years to wow me, I'm not wowed, but trust me, the ceiling is there. If you do get him, guys, make sure you combo him as part of a robust RB strategy with other guys, because I just don't feel warm and fuzzy about him at all. Now, Jimmy, we're going to continue on with regression players. First guy we talked about was Derrick Henry. We're going to continue on. How do the people listening in the car, hopefully you guys, you don't have the visual, so make sure you guys jump on over to YouTube at Fantasy Football Counselor to watch this. How do they get this app if you're listening in the car? And I'm going to link it here below on YouTube, but how do they get this app? What site do they go to?
Sure. You got to go to fantasyfootballmaverick.com. This is a web-based app. It's available exclusively through my website. It's not on the App Store. It's not on it's not on the Apple Store, or the Play Store for Android. You just access it through the website. It's a web-based app, so any web-connected device with a browser can access the app and utilize it.
Yeah, and you get his recommended picks at that position. Okay, so this is really cool. Okay, so I got to debate you here. We're going to talk about regression here, but I got to debate you on Godwin, because I definitely see Godwin with a high ceiling, but the problem is Evans is there, and I think Godwin is rated higher than Evans this year because of the fact that he had a better season last year. Now, Jim, the problem is it's going to be a coin toss. We haven't seen Brady emerge 2 wide receivers as of late. I think 150 targets to Edelman last year. So what tells you that Godwin is going to be the guy over Evans? Because I think only one of them really emerges.
Yeah, well, you got to consider Brady is 43, and he can't chuck it deep as well as he used to. And they're going to rely more on the short passes to receivers that can get open and make something happen. It's the same kind of thing that, like when Peyton Manning was in Denver, that they adjusted the plays so that he wouldn't have to stretch the field. And with Mike Evans is a guy that makes his money on the deep pass into the end zone. And I just don't think there's going to be as much of an opportunity for Evans with Brady as the quarterback. He's not going to be able to sling it deep as much as Winston was.
Right.
And the other thing with Evans is he is a volume reliant receiver. He needs a ton of volume to be productive because he doesn't have a very good catch percentage. So it was just a bunch of negative things associated with that. Whereas Godwin's in the slot, Brady loves the slot receiver and has used slot receivers his entire career. Godwin is the guy for me. I mean, I just don't see how he cannot be successful. Plus, it's a contract year for Godwin.
Yeah, I mean, that's really, really good insight. And I feel the same way too. It's like, I think he's going to get more receptions to be better in PPR for Godwin. I think Evans is going to be kind of those boomy busty kind of guys. It's going to be interesting. The deep ball is there for Evans, but not often as much as Winston. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. But again, to me, the reason I'm staying away from both is because I don't want to invest a second round pick on a coin toss. But yeah, I definitely give this slight edge to Godwin. All right, other regression players here. You got Michael Thomas here with regression. That's pretty obvious. What do you have, like 185 targets, 149 receptions, something stupid and high like that. I mean, he is obviously due for a regression here. But the big question comes, and you got to think a little bit more into this. How much of a regression for Michael Thomas, in your opinion? Love to hear it.
Well, let me tell you what, this is my second criteria for getting the regression tag, is a player that had an NFL record-breaking season last year. And the big three players are CMC, Michael Thomas, and Lamar Jackson. Those three guys all broke records. And when I looked at the 2018 record setters, players like Saquon Barkley, Patrick Mahomes, who were some of those are two of the big names from 2018. What I found that was on a per game basis, their production declined anywhere from about 15 to 20% per game. And then you throw in the fact that they got injured and they missed a few games, it just murdered their value this past year. And that's the big risk. They are priced for perfection, and the chances of them doing it again are very slim. I don't see it happening.
Right. No, totally understandable. Now, I just don't know how much they'll decline, though. How much do you think Thomas will really decline? That's my big question.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, probably on a per game basis, 15 to 20% in production per game.
Okay, per game, but I'm
on
not,
average.
I'm just thinking whole year. 185 targets, I think it was. Am I correct on that one? I think.
Yeah, there's no way he's getting that again.
That's what I just think big picture. How much is he going to get on the big picture? So you got to look at that. Even with, I'm thinking Gurley here. I mean, not Gurley, but Henry. I mean, 16 touchdowns. Another guy I got on my regression list is Aaron Jones.
Yes.
16 touchdowns. It's just so hard to hit again, right? But the problem is, here's the problem, and the mainstream kind of do this, is that they tell you, okay, these guys finished here, and they're drafting them predicated on last year's numbers. There's a little bit of thought process, but not a huge thought process as much as you and I dive in and into that regression. They're just thinking, okay, these guys finished on top. Draft them again in that order. I think that's stupid. You can't draft them completely predicated on last year's numbers. It's an old way of thinking, and that's why I'm introducing people to your app here, to make people aware that there's a new way to do things.
Yeah, the last time a running back repeated as the number one running back in fantasy was 2006, 2007. Oh, I thought it was LaDainian Tomlinson.
No,
2006, 2007.
2002, 2003.
There you go.
Yeah, it was crazy. I think that's it. So, yeah, man, finishing on top back-to-back is very hard. Maybe LT was on top, but I think he finished second the year after or the year before, something like that. But either way, let's move on with regression players. Austin Eckler. Now, I can understand why there's no regression here with Melvin Gordon being shipped off. I definitely 100% see this, but I definitely see the hangover as well. My question is, do you think, in my opinion, is Tyrod is not Phillip Rivers. So I don't see he gets as many receptions as he did last year. What are your thoughts on Eckler, and do you think Joshua Kelly is going to be a threat?
Yeah, the whole quarterback situation for the Chargers just points that this is a transition year for that team. And Tyrod Taylor's not going to play 16 games. At some point, he's going to lose a couple games, and there will be, Herbert. There's going to be all these calls for Herbert to be the starter, and they're going to put him in. So it's going to be a midseason quarterback change to a rookie quarterback, which is always negative for all the players around them when that happens. And so, Austin Eckler, he doesn't score great. He only scores 35 Vork points. So he's kind of below my threshold, just a 2-star outlook. And it's mostly because of the issues related to the quarterback there and the fact that he got a big contract last year, a big contract extension. So he's not really on my radar.
So another guy that I have issues with as well. I think Eckler, I'm not really sold on. Again, not 132 attempts. I like the full workhorse running back, especially I'm going late first round, early second, whatever. I'm going for full workhorse running back. What about Dalvin Cook? I mean, pinnacle year for him. Got injured yet again. I'm not seeing him finish 6 games this year. I really don't believe in him. What are your thoughts on Dalvin Cook for a decline possibly? I don't see him as a decline here. You have him, in fact, as a contract and upward trend. What is the upward trend with this guy?
His usage has increased in each of the past 3 seasons, which is a positive thing. And he does score good on the outlook, but he scores terribly on reliability. He's a low reliability player. And that's the reason why he's so low on the list. He only scores 24 points. And in my app, if you score poorly on any of those 4 categories, you actually get negative Vork points. So it takes away from any positives on the other side of the list. So Dalvin Cook is not really someone that I'm looking at just because of those risks. Especially, he's one of those players where you basically have to commit 2 draft positions if you take him. You've got to take him, and you have to take Alexander Mattison in like the 8th or 9th round. Do you really want to commit yourself to those 2 players this season? Because that 8th round is super critical for getting a decent depth play, and I don't want to get a handcuff. Don't want to spend a handcuff in the 8th round.
So let me ask you this: Vork score, is it out of 1 to 10, or what's it out of?
It's 0 to 100.
Okay.
But hardly anybody scores 100. I mean, it's so hard to do that because you got to score perfect on all 4 categories. But like I said, if they score over 40, they're a good choice. Over 40 is kind of my threshold for that's a viable player to take in this round. Okay, and one of the nice things in my app is, we have the long shots and the reaches. You'll see that if a player makes it to a later round, their Vork score goes up because the value component of their score increases because it's being based on your 3rd round pick as opposed to a 2nd round pick for value. So you'll see players will rise up the draft board if they're available later. And that's also a good thing to see when that happens.
So what is Dalvin Cook's Vork score? You tell me his Vork score. I'll tell you what I think his Vork score should be.
Oh, well, if you look on the app there, it was at like 20, I think is what it said.
Out of 100?
20 out of 100.
Yeah. Guess what I give him? I give him a 0 out of 100. I would never draft this guy. So yeah, I think you're being nice with 20. Again, he could boom, but hasn't finished the season in 3 years. So regression for him, regression for Eckler, in my opinion, regression for Thomas, regression for Henry. And that covers round 1. Let's rapid fire a little bit now. We've already talked about the app. Rapid fire here. Any regression that pops out to you here in the second?
Aaron Jones is the only one with a regression tag on that round. He's at the bottom of the list.
Yeah, I agree. Again, This app has passed the test so far. I agree. Aaron Jones, I'm staying far away. Look, and I think Dylan's going to be a factor, not necessarily right off the bat, but eventually. This is potentially going to be the future. Runs a 4.5, 240 pounds. Around the end zone, he's going to be getting some of that goal line work. How much of a factor do you think Dylan could be here?
Well, when you're talking about committees, you now have a 3-headed committee in Green Bay. And really, I see them moving towards being a lot like a run-first team like the Niners. I see that that's kind of how they're building that team right now. And so, but A.J. Dillon just kills the value of Aaron Jones in that backfield because you're going to have terrible consistency ratings on a week-to-week basis. It's going to be really hard to trust Aaron Jones. And it was hard to trust him last year. Last year, he had tons of boom-bust games where he disappeared, and Jamal Williams was in there doing great, at least for the first half of the season. Second half, it was mostly Aaron Jones. But, like I said, that's what I see happening there. And so I just don't want to deal with any teams that are dealing with a three-headed backfield. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, he's a monster. I think I love A.J. Dillon. He's a monster. Stash him late. I found a first hole in the game. Nick Chubb regression. Where's add the regression tab right there. Nick Chubb.
Well, I don't think you need to. He doesn't score well. His value rank, especially in PPR. We're looking at PPR, right?
Yeah.
Is that how it scored? Look at his value rank. We're at pick number 19. Go down and look on the value column. His value rank is 62nd.
Where's the value?
That's reason enough not to take him, and again,
I think it's 52, right?
Oh, is that 52? I'm sorry. The text is a little small on my eyes there. But you don't want to pick a person with the 52nd most valuable player at pick number 19. That's a terrible choice. And
Right.
again, he only scores 30 Vork points. He's below my threshold of 40. He's really not someone that I would consider. Maybe if he fell to the third round, which I don't see happening. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that's a terrible value play for PPR. Now he'll score better in standard leagues. He might be higher rated in standard leagues, but for PPR, no way. He's a bad choice.
And I like this. It tells you he's a contract year in 2021, and then
Yep.
Juju's in a contract year this year. So it tells you which year they're in a contract year. That's exciting. All right, round 3, regression players. Regression. Anyone here that pops out is Amari Cooper? Yeah, man. With CeeDee Lamb, 100% regression. He only had like 119 targets last year. Not enough to justify a third round pick for me. I even see him coming off in second rounds in some mock draft, which is insane.
That's nuts.
Are you forgetting about Gallup? Are you forgetting about CD and Gallup? I mean, there's a lot of mouths to feed, and if Pollard comes in, he's going to catch some balls, and they've got a tight end. Listen, I'm staying away from Amari Cooper, and I love this. I love this regression here. I love it. Lamar Jackson, I agree as well. Mark Andrews. Now, I'm curious to see here. He was pretty consistent. What do you think? Why Mark Andrews on a regression? I'd like an explanation here.
Okay, this is the third criteria for the regression tag, and it's someone whose touchdowns were very high relative to his usage, and also just the fact with Lamar Jackson, I have Lamar Jackson tagged as a severe regression risk for touchdown passes. I mean, last year he had the most touchdowns in the league on the lowest passing volume in the league. That is unsustainable. And I can see Lamar Jackson's touchdown total for throwing touchdowns declining by about 10 to 15 this year. And that directly affects all the receivers on that team. So that is the regression risk for Mark Andrews and why I don't like him this year. I think he'd probably fall to 5 or 6 touchdowns this year. And like we saw this past year when Travis Kelce got 10 touchdowns in 2018 and he fell to 5 touchdowns this past year, it didn't matter that he was still the number 1 tight end. He was terrible for fantasy, especially the first half of the season. He was a disaster for fantasy. And, you don't want that, especially with such a third round pick. Man, you can't do that.
You know what? I'm sold on the app already, man. Like I'm sold. I'm sold. And honestly, I would have picked this apart. Like I'm trying to pick it apart. I really am trying to cut you up, Jimmy. I'm here to make fun of you, but I can't. That's why you guys got to get the app. I'm being honest here. I wouldn't lie to you. And I'm debating the things that I'm trying to debate. And overall, it's pretty good. Like, let me see here. I mean, Leonard Fournette contract. I like that. I mean, I like him. I think he's great value here in the third round. I think that's phenomenal. I agree with that. I don't agree with everything. I mean, it's fantasy. You're never going to agree 100% with someone else's opinion. It's just the way it is. And nobody is 100% right. But I'm telling you, man, like this is the type of stuff you need to do and research and know to get that advantage in your leagues, period. Like you just can't win off, drafting on ADP and consensus ranking. And you need to know this information, okay? By the way, I love A.J. Brown here in the third round. And yes, it is. This is exactly what I mean, why I like this app, because it is a bit of a reach. Now, I've done 100 mock drafts easily, probably more. I do it on a daily basis, multiple times a day. And yes, A.J. Brown typically comes off in the 4th round. So yes, if you really want him, it is a bit of a reach, but yeah, I mean, he's good value in the 3rd round. So I agree, 100%.
Yeah, and when you look at the little reach icon, what that means is that the next round they're going to be a long shot. So if you want to risk it, right? And a long shot means less than a 50-50 chance that he'll be available on your next pick.
Yep.
So if you want to risk it, if you want to gamble, you can say, okay, I'm going to wait and see if he's still available. But just know that that's what happens with that player, that your odds of getting him 50-50 or less. And sometimes it works out. It works great. And then you get the extra value there. But yeah, A.J. Brown, he is. I don't think he's a great choice in the 3rd round for sure. And really, if you look there, you see I really don't like him in the 4th round either. He's more of a consistency issue and low volume. I mean, he's extremely efficient, but the low volume that he's expected to get on a run-first offense with Derrick Henry, who they're going to have games where Derrick Henry's just going to run the ball 50 times and they'll maybe throw the ball 10 times. AJ Brown's going to be worthless on that week. He's not going to be able to do anything.
I like him. I like Tannehill.
Yeah.
I like Brown. I think Brown's going to get a lot of volume this year. I think he only had like 84 targets last year. He's going to go up this year. I think he's going to get into his own groove. I think he's a huge breakout candidate. But yeah, like as he said here, if we looked at it in the third round, he was available. But here, if you're going like later here in the fourth round, he's a long shot to get, and I totally agree with that. Who else do we got here? Dak Prescott. You know what? He's always been a guy who's been under the radar. Last year had a good year, and now the consensus are finally riding the train, whereas I was getting him for a value every single year I drafted. This year, you're saying, what is this, a regression? Why Dak? I mean, he's got a better receiver now, CeeDee Lamb. I think he's going to be more in the groove. I think he just needs to prove to everybody that his legacy needs to be there. He's been getting a lot of criticism with the pay, not getting paid what he should. What justifies the regression for Prescott?
Well, you nailed it when you said you were always able to get Dak Prescott super late in your drafts, and he was an immense value last year. That's how you win your fantasy league. Now he's the third quarterback coming off the board, and again, the regression tag, career season on a contract year. That's what he had last year, and he's got a quarterback change. There's just I never really take a quarterback early. Especially in 12-team leagues, I always want to be like the last person in my league to take a quarterback. But just the fact where he's going right now, yes, he does have an improved receiver core, but who knows what's going to happen? And is he going to even offer any value at this round of the draft? That's where I'm at. So he's still. If we look at the board there, I think he's still a recommend. I think he scores over 40 Vork points. So he still would be a recommend on my list. Oh, no, he's right under the board. He's like at 35. So for me, oh, wait, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong one. Where is he? Where's Dak? Oh, there he is. Yeah. He's got like 35 Vork points. So he's under my threshold to consider for this round. But look, he's also a reach. So on the next round, he's going to be over 40. And so as a fifth round pick, he's a better choice. But again, he'll be a long shot on the fifth round. If you click on the fifth, let's see where he is.
Okay, let's do it. Where is he? Do you see him? There he
is.
Yeah.
Okay, 46 Vork points in the fifth round. So he's a recommend there, but he's the long shot. He's typically going at pick number 54. Oh, and you're at pick 54. Yeah, so it's like a 50-50 shot that he would be available on the fifth round pick. And he is a decent choice there. Wouldn't be my favorite choice. But, if you're going to take Dak, that would be a much better time to take him than in the fourth round.
Okay. What's this arrow here for downward trend for Kareem Hunt? I would think he's going up. I think he gets more volume this year.
He is going to get more volume this year, but that just looks at the prior 3 seasons. And of course, his volume went down in each of the prior 3 seasons. So, but I do have him as a bounce back. I have him as, a bounce back this year on much better volume, as he will be playing 16 games as opposed to 8. So, he's a great choice. He's actually one of my favorite choices in the 5th or 6th round for running back.
Okay, Devontae Parker, you're not sold on the hype. Are you a Williams guy? I see a regression here on Devontae Parker, and I'm not sold. I think the ceiling is there, but I think it's going to be fool's gold here. I could be wrong. I'm just not taking the risk on this guy in the 5th round. Not doing it.
Yeah, again, a career season on a contract year by a guy that never did anything before then. Plus you got a potential midseason quarterback change. How long is Fitzpatrick going to be good? Anytime you bet your season on Fitzpatrick, you're really, especially during the draft, don't do that. But anyway, yeah, I mean, he's absolutely a regression risk this year.
All right. Let's fight here. Let's fight. We got a fight coming on. All right.
Okay.
Josh Allen, why the regression? He's got Diggs now. He's got a better receiver. What's going on?
Josh Allen had 9 rushing touchdowns last year. That was almost twice as many as Lamar Jackson. That's definitely coming down. And rush touchdowns for quarterbacks are super, super valuable. So him losing like 4 or 5 touchdowns this year, which is what you should expect, is a huge regression risk that will really hurt his value.
Yes, you know what? And they've got Moss there. Moss, a.k.a. Moss Boss, Zach Moss, supposed to be right. They're comparing him to he's comparing himself to Marshawn Lynch. I don't know if it's going to actually happen, but I definitely see him getting some goal line work, taking that pressure off Allen. But, yeah, I think he makes up a little bit more of that in the passing game this year. I think he throws more, hopefully.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. And Allen needs to improve his accuracy on the passing game as well. But again, like I said, I'm in my league to take a quarterback kind of guy. And it's really paid off the past few years, man. I got Lamar Jackson in a bunch of leagues last year. I got Patrick Mahomes in a bunch of leagues the year before that. This year, I'm looking at Daniel Jones. I'm looking at Matthew Stafford. Those are guys you can get very late in your draft, and they will perform outstanding for your fantasy team. They'll be a great value play. So that's where I'm at with quarterbacks.
So I think that's it, man. And we covered the first 6 rounds. Those are regression players. I don't really want to debate it at all. We talked about Dalvin Cook. I don't care for Christian McCaffrey. I think is going to regress. You've got it listed here. That's pretty obvious too. A lot of people don't see it. They're drafting him thinking he's going to do the exact same thing. I mean, man, can you state that criteria again for regression again for everybody?
Okay, yeah. So it's 3 things. The first one is, did they have an NFL record-setting season last year?
Yes.
The second thing is, did they have a career season on a contract year? And the third thing is, did they have an unusually large number of touchdowns relative to their volume?
Yes.
So if any of those things happen, then I tag them with the regression risk. So
I like it.
And it really would have helped you avoid some real problematic players last season. Saquon Barkley, Patrick Mahomes, those guys they were not worth the pick. They faltered relative to their draft position. You want to avoid that as much as possible. I want guys with the upside. That's what I'm looking for.
All right, Jim, that's it for today, man. Thank you. We covered a lot of regression here. So can you just shout out your website one more time, please?
Sure. Just so go to fantasyfootballmaverick.com and you can sign up and you can access the app, a limited version of the app for free. And it'll allow you to access the standard points list and a 12-team draft mode. You can try it out in some mock drafts, see if you like it. If you do, you can subscribe and unlock all the features of the app. And right now, the app is $19.95, but for fantasy football counselor players, I'm offering $5 off. You got to use coupon code FFC20, fantasy football counselor 20, and you'll get $5 off that.
Is that going to be in capitals or just FFC20?
It's just going to be FFC20 lowercase. I don't know if it matters on my system, but I do have that set up. And, like I said, I've also put in a guarantee that if anything happens this football season that causes the season to be canceled at any point, I'm going to automatically extend everybody's membership 1 more year. So you'll be able to use it for your 2021 fantasy draft when all this stuff will be done, all the COVID will be passed, and we'll be all back to normal and happy again.
Yeah, I'll be doing that in my 16-round draft solution as well. I'm going to extend it to next year as well. So hopefully, the season will happen. You guys stay optimistic. But yeah, guys, head on over, get the app, use promo code FFC20, and away we go. Thanks,
awesome,
Jim.
Counselor. Thank you so much for having me on today. I appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. I'm going to pin it below here on YouTube. Smash a thumbs up. Leave your questions for Jimmy and I, and we're going to be battling in the comment section. Thanks, Jimmy, for being on, guys. Appreciate everybody being here. We are out.